Hello, this is Dr. Victoria Skirble, speaking to you from the Caesar Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. And I just finished doing an astrological sort of look at the chart of Pope Francis, and from an evolutionary perspective, and also with the current transits that are occurring. The Pope at this point is embattled and embroiled in the Catholic Church's sexual abuse scandal. He did not come into this popedom, I guess. I don't think that's a word, but anyway, he did not come into this situation blind of the situation. Anybody who's Catholic knows what's been going on, and you would imagine that the head of the church would know as well. So he did not take the job without knowing that this was more than likely going to be the thing that he had to deal with primarily. So what I thought I would do, and I've been doing for a couple of monthly situations, is I thought I would do a tarot reading on him, and just as a curiosity. And generally I do them as I'm here, while I'm talking to you, I'm shuffling and putting the cards out. But I hadn't decided whether I wanted to do this, and I also figured that I would just look to see. But the cards were pretty revealing, and I think that I want to share them with you. So I did do these just like I normally do: shuffle, 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 cut 3 times, and pull the cards out, thinking of the Pope and his situation. So I thought I would share this reading with you, and take it for what it's worth. It's my interpretation of the cards. So the first thing I want to look at is the present situation for the Pope. And I'm doing the Celtic Cross, but I'm using the Tarot of the Old Path. There are tarot cards that have a lot of religious iconography, a lot of Catholic, Christian iconography on it, which I don't own. So I only own what I own, and I picked this one up, and I thought this would be interesting to see how these cards came with. So the first card we get is the present situation, and we get the Ace of Cups. And so this is called the Ace of Cauldrons, and we have a beautiful silver cup sitting in what looks like a spring of some sort, with the water falling behind it. The Ace of Cups is about love, compassion, contentment. In the on the Tree of Life, this is found in Kether, which is our connection to Source. So presently, I would say that he is in prayer or contemplation. And the challenge is the 9 of Swords. And in this deck, we have this poor person with all the swords around him. His hands are tied. There's a lot of anxiety. And so the challenge here for him is, how does he find peace among the obvious challenges that face him? To a certain extent, his hands are tied behind his back. And this is perhaps not something that can be resolved through thought alone, right? The swords are thinking, our capacity to think. But in our capacity to think, there's always a dark and a light side. And so it's almost like this is the kind of thing that you can't think your way through. You have to feel your way through. And he certainly seems as though he is feeling and connecting to Source, which you would hope that would be the first thing that the Pope did, right? I mean, if the Pope is, a spiritual guy. So what's at the base of the reading is this: the 10 of Rods, or the 10 of Wands. And this is a card associated with a lot of burdens. And we have this gentleman picking up all these different pieces of, looks like bamboo, and trying to gather them. And so here's somebody who's endeavoring to sort of clean up a bit, and in that cleaning up we have him feeling very burdened, and who wouldn't feel that? Now, in the past we have this card. This is the Four of Pentacles, and this is a card about acquisition and greed and holding on to what you have, holding on to the money. And I don't necessarily see this as a personal thing for him, because he is, you know, somewhat of a socialist. He has socialist tendencies. He has humanitarian tendencies. Money is not his primary concern. But certainly the church's primary concern has been money. And I know for a fact that, because I was a Catholic for so many years, and I do have, you know, some knowledge of what's going on in the inner work, like very, very brief knowledge of what's going on in the inner workings, and it kind of makes sense, is that one of the things that the Catholic Church is so afraid of is losing all their money to suits and such. So there's that in the past, and whether or not that was something that he personally believed would be a problem, certainly the church itself is looking at that as a problem. Now, what's in the sky for him, or up in spirit, is the Ace of Wands, and this is all about something new, a new creative endeavor. This is fire. This is inspiration from spirit. This is also in Kether on the Tree of Life. So this is up in the crown chakra. And so spirit is saying their answers are in your connection to spirit, in your connection to source, and into your creative abilities. The Six of Wands, in the immediate future for the Pope, we have the Page of Pentacles. And here we have a young man. Usually the Page of Pentacles is symbolic of a student, or somebody who's just starting their education. This particular page is holding some fuchsia in his hands. I'm not exactly sure of the spiritual or medical significance of fuchsia. I could look that up and maybe annotate it at the end of the video, or, you know, in the little box there. I'll do that for you just to see if this can be a little bit more specific. But I feel as though the future lies in the young people, okay? And so finding ways to attract young people to the church, perhaps. That being said, the church is going to have to get rid of a lot of dogma for that. But there is a sense of bringing youth into the situation, and perhaps working with the youth, whether that be in you know, therapy and such, or programs that help to support the youth in safer ways, or new ways of dealing with youth within the church. How he is seen by the outside world, we have the Eight of Swords. This is somebody who's very dejected. There's a lot of pain around them. So people see that he's in pain, that he's in a dangerous and a precarious situation. This card in other decks, this deck doesn't have it, but in other decks there's usually water associated with the person who's sort of walking through the swords. And so the person has to, like, follow their intuition in order to get out of the sticky situation. I believe that this card up top, with spirit, the messages from spirit are giving us that information anyway. So now this is very interesting. This is the domestic situation, and so we're going to figure the domestic situation of the Pope is, right, the Vatican, or, you know, the people around him, the cardinals and such. And we know that there's some power plays going on with some of the more conservative cardinals who think that, you know, he should perhaps step down because he didn't take responsibility, although he did take responsibility. And it's interesting that I doubt very much if the more conservative branch of the church is going to do anything to change anything, but that's just me. But this is the card we get, and it's the Temptation card, interestingly enough. that in the Pope's domestic situation, the Vatican, we have the card of the devil, which is what this card is in other decks. And in this card, we have a man who seems a little bit, I would say, slothful. Let's see, what does he have? He's just sort of hanging out there. He's there with the woman. Of course, the woman symbolizes temptation. We have a fox up here, but the fox is blind. The fox has cataracts. So that's this slyness. There's a bag of gold here. There's a snake slithering down the guy's leg. These are all the earthly temptations. And it's interesting that something like the church would be so surrounded by those earthly temptations. Of course, what you try to destroy, you create. And so the church, to a certain extent, has created its own hell by its own greed and avarice and lust and all the things that it says it doesn't do, that it has done over the centuries. And so that's what surrounds him. And so to a certain extent, the devil surrounds him. And again, if he can stay connected to his spiritual source, then he's in danger by the powers that would prefer us not to be spiritual in the church. Go figure. His hopes and fears, and here we have the Three of Rods, and here this in the other decks there's your ship coming in, but in this deck we have two people working together, one person up in the tree, the other person down on the ground, trying to build something together. And I would say that this is his hope and not his fear. I feel like his hope is that we can all work together to fix and make this problem no longer be the problem that it's been in the past. The Catholic Church is a big organization, and it's not going to miraculously change overnight. But he did say that he felt that they took responsibility, which they've never really done before. So that's a step. And in that mode of taking responsibility, this is the outcome card, and this is the card of the world. Interestingly enough, we have this beautiful goddess. I believe it's the goddess Nut, the Egyptian goddess, and she's holding her breasts, and out of her breasts come the stars of the Milky Way. And so this is symbolic of the divine feminine. If this was not a pagan deck and perhaps a Catholic deck, we might see Mother Mary here. Mother Mary is also, that Mother Mary blue has to do with the firmament and the stars, and mother of Mater, mother, and Mary being bitter tears and all of that. So the symbolism of the divine feminine nurturing the world. And so I feel as though, and this card is connected with the planet Saturn, interestingly enough. On the Tree of Life, it is on the path between Yesod, the moon, and Malkuth, the kingdom or the earth. And it is the path of the birth canal. And so giving birth to the divine feminine, giving birth to the power of the feminine within the church, which has denied the power of the feminine. I mean, they have Mary, but they have Mary. They haven't completely knocked the goddess out of the park. But Mary was a virgin birth, and then the other Mary was a whore. So they've split that up, right? And now it's time to bring that together. The Pope has Saturn in Pisces in the 8th house. And so he has a spiritual journey to heal the wounds around abusive power and around sexual abuse and the unhealthy relationship we have with our sexuality. Like, who would think the Pope that would be his job, right? But in part, that's his job. And with the World card as the outcome, I feel as though whatever ultimately happens to this man, he will have done his job. He will have done what he came on the planet to do. And I feel that as long as he stays connected to Source, to Spirit, then there is hope. for healing. And I really feel like this is the time for it anyway. And as Pluto moves through Capricorn anyway, all the institutions are being turned upside down to be shown like what they really stand on. You know, this is the past of the church, and this is the future. And I have to say, I like the future much better. I hope you enjoyed this reading. You can comment below. Please keep them, respectful. All right. If you would like me to do a reading on another person or another situation, I'd be happy to try it out and see how it goes. And I will see you again tomorrow, or tomorrow. I'll definitely see you tomorrow to do the astrology, but I'll see you again soon. Put your requests down below. Subscribe, like, share. Ciao.